Every time you hold your tongue, when anger rises, you are practicing. Every time you smile through uncertainty, you are practicing. Peace is not something you find, it's something you become. And you've been becoming. Slowly, quietly, beautifully, you look back and realize how far you've come. You no longer react to pain the same way. You no longer fear solitude. You no longer beg life to be gentle. You've become gentle with yourself instead. And in that gentleness, you've found strength. True strength. Not the loud kind, but the silent one. The strength to stay soft in a hard world. To stay open in a world that closes. To stay human in a world that forgets how. And in this stillness, you begin to understand love differently. Not as possession, not as need, but as presence. To love someone is not to hold them, but to honor their path. To love life is not to demand from it, but to thank it for everything it gives and everything it takes away. You no longer fear loss because you no longer cling. You no longer fear endings because you understand beginnings. You no longer fear death because you have finally learned how to live. And living, truly living, means to meet each day as if it were your first and last. To greet the sunrise with gratitude. To meet the sunset with peace. To do your work quietly. To give your best, even when no one is watching. To leave the world a little better than you found it. That is virtue. That is mastery. That is freedom. You find joy in simplicity now? The smell of rain, the warmth of tea, the laughter of a stranger. Small things, but they feel infinite. Because you no longer see life through the eyes of desire. You see it through the eyes of awareness. And in awareness, everything is enough. You begin to speak less, judge less, desire less. You begin to be. There is no rush anymore. No competition. No noise. Just the steady rhythm of your breath and the quiet whisper of your soul saying, I am here. And that is enough. This is what you were searching for all along. Not the world's approval, not endless success, not the illusion of control, but the peace of knowing you are exactly where you need to be. Right now. In this breath. In this life. And with that realization, you finally stop searching. You close your eyes, not to escape the world, but to feel it more deeply. The sound of wind, the pulse of your heart, the eternal hum of existence. You are part of it all, and it is part of you. You smile, not because life is perfect, but because you are at peace with its imperfection. You whisper softly to yourself, as Marcus once did, the happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. And in that moment, your thoughts are clear, calm, aligned. You are no longer at war with life. You are in harmony with it. And that is the quiet triumph of a soul that has returned home. You start to love the challenge itself, the friction, the doubt, the uncertainty, because it reminds you that you are alive, fully, fiercely, vulnerably alive. You breathe deeper now, not because the air changed, but because you did. The same life that once felt heavy now feels sacred. The same pain that once felt unbearable now feels like a teacher. The same solitude that once felt empty now feels like peace. You walk through crowds and no longer need to belong. You sit in silence and no longer feel alone, because you understand the world outside is not your home. Your home is within. It's the still point inside your soul that nothing can touch. You can lose everything and still remain whole. That's the secret the Stoics knew. That's what they tried to tell us. Marcus Aurelius said, if you are distressed by anything external, the pain is not due to the thing itself, but to your estimate of it. And this you have the power to revoke at any moment. At any moment, you can change how you see. You can change how you live. You can choose peace, not later, not someday, now. You've learned that discipline is a form of love. When you wake early, when you train your body, when you quiet your mind, you are not punishing yourself. You are preparing yourself, preparing to meet life with grace. Because every day demands courage, the courage to stay calm, to stay kind, to stay true, even when the world tempts you, to become bitter, even when chaos whispers, break. You do not break. You breathe. You center. You remember. That's the discipline of the Stoic. Not coldness, but clarity. To see the world clearly and still choose goodness. To know how cruel life can be and still choose compassion. To know how temporary everything is and still love deeply. You have stopped expecting perfection from life. You have started practicing harmony with it. You understand now, your peace is not a prize, it's a practice. Every moment you choose patience, you are practicing. And now, you walk differently. Not with haste, not with pride, but with presence. Each step deliberate, each breath a quiet prayer. You have become the calm you once begged the world to give you. There is no need to rush anymore. No need to chase, no need to prove. You have nothing left to prove, only to live. You see the faces around you, the endless seeking in their eyes, the hunger for meaning, for validation, for belonging. You understand it now. You've been there. You've felt that ache, the ache of not feeling enough. But you smile softly, because you know the truth. You were never incomplete. You were simply unaware. The gold was never outside of you. It was buried deep within, waiting to be uncovered. By the hands of pain, you begin to see how suffering was never your punishment. It was your awakening. The nights that broke you were the same nights that softened you. The loneliness that crushed you was the silence that taught you how to listen. And the loss that emptied you was the space that allowed peace to enter. Everything had meaning. You just couldn't see it before. You recall the words of Epictetus, "No man is free who is not master of himself." And you realize freedom isn't the absence of struggle. It's the ability to meet struggle with serenity. You used to fight everything. Now you flow. You used to demand. Now you accept. You used to grasp for control. Now you trust the rhythm of things. You've learned that some doors must close, so others can open. That some people must leave, so you can learn solitude. That some dreams must die, so truer ones can be born. You no longer curse the endings. You bow to them. Because every ending carries wisdom. A wisdom that only reveals itself to the patient heart. And you've grown patient, quietly patient. You've learned that everything unfolds in its own divine timing, not yours, not the world's, but the universe's. You've stopped asking, "Why me?" and started whispering, "Why not me?" Why not be tested? Why not be refined? Why not be chosen by life to learn what few ever understand? So you let go of comparison. You stop measuring your worth against the noise of others. You understand that your journey is not meant to be understood by everyone. It's meant to be lived deeply, silently, truly. And you start to trust it. The detours, the delays, the disappointments, they are not mistakes. They are directions. Every moment you thought was failure was actually redirection. Every heartbreak was a doorway to deeper strength. You no longer ask for an easier path. You ask for stronger feet. You no longer ask for lighter burdens. You ask for broader shoulders. You no longer ask for peace to come. You become peace itself. And that is the moment you are reborn. When you realize that freedom was never outside you. It was always waiting. In the quiet center of your soul. That's where the Stoics lived. Not in temples or thrones, but in that still place within, untouched by the world's chaos. And that's where you live now, calm, strong, present. The storms may rage, but you stand. The world may fall apart, but you remain whole. Because your peace no longer depends on the world. It depends on you, not the surrender of weakness, but of wisdom. You let life move through you, without resistance, without fear, without pride. Because everything that leaves makes space for something new. Every death in your life, of dreams, of relationships, of identities, is followed by a quiet rebirth. And that rebirth, it always begins in the same place, within you. You learn that healing is not about becoming who you were, but becoming who you were meant to be. Every scar is sacred, every mistake a map, every wound a doorway to depth. You no longer hide your pain. You honor it. You sit with it. You ask it what it came to teach. And in that conversation, you find peace. You find that you can look at your reflection again, not with judgment, but with quiet compassion. You begin to love yourself, not because you are perfect, but because you are trying. Because through every season of chaos, you kept walking, even when no one saw you, even when no one clapped, even when the world moved on without you. You stayed, you endured, you grew, and that is greatness. The kind of greatness that cannot be measured, the kind that cannot be taken. You are no longer chasing light. You have become it. And from that light, you start to give. You begin to forgive others, not because they deserve it, but because you deserve peace. You forgive yourself too, for the times you fell short, for the times you didn't know better, for the times you were simply trying to survive, because that's all you ever were. A human being, learning, hurting, healing, becoming. You realize no one is ahead or behind you. Everyone is simply walking their own path, carrying their own invisible battles. That not every season will be kind, that not every story will end how you hoped, and that's okay, because you're no longer trying to control the story, you're learning to flow with it. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "Align yourself with what happens, and the universe moves with you." So you align, you stop resisting, you breathe, you learn to trust the rhythm of life, the tides of loss and return, the cycle of endings and beginnings. You start to see beauty, even in the broken pieces, because every ending is only a doorway to another form of becoming. The Stoics called this amor fati, the love of fate. To not only accept what happens, but to love it. To say yes to life, not selectively, but completely. Yes to joy, yes to pain, yes to uncertainty, yes to whatever unfolds. Because everything that happens is part of the same vast design. You are no longer a victim of it. You are a participant, a student, a witness. You stop waiting for peace to arrive. You start being peace. You move slowly now, deliberately, like someone who has finally understood that time is the only true wealth. You don't waste it anymore on resentment, on envy, on noise. You use it to build what lasts. Character, wisdom, presence. Because one day, you will leave this world, just as everyone before you has. And when that moment comes, you won't take your possessions, your followers, your fame. You will take only one thing, the quality of your soul. So you begin to live differently, not seeking to impress, but to express, not seeking to be seen, but to see the sky, the light, the small miracles of being alive. You learn to pause in the middle of chaos and just breathe, to stand in traffic, in heartbreak, in loss, and whisper, "I am here." Because being here is the greatest gift of all. Life owes you nothing, but it gives you everything in every breath you take. You begin to see how brief it all is, how fragile, how sacred, and instead of mourning that truth, you bow to it. Because impermanence is not something to fear. It's what makes every moment precious. You no longer cling to what fades. You love it while it's here, and you let it go when it leaves. That is the rhythm of peace, the dance between holding and releasing. You stop fighting for control. You start practicing surrender. And now the silence doesn't feel heavy anymore. It feels alive, gentle, honest. You realize the silence you once feared was never emptiness. It was space, space for you to breathe, space for you to rebuild. The world outside hasn't changed, but you have. You no longer rush. You no longer chase. You no longer beg life to love you back. You simply move with intention, with grace, with presence. The pain is still there, but it no longer controls you. It flows through you like wind through trees. It bends you, but it does not break you. You understand now. Life was never meant to be painless. It was meant to be real. To live is to be cut and scarred and reborn, again and again and again. You remember the words of Seneca. Difficulties strengthen the mind, as labor does the body. You begin to see your struggles differently now, not as curses, but as chisels shaping your soul. Every heartbreak carved humility, every failure etched wisdom, every loss sculpted resilience. This is the quiet alchemy of life, to turn suffering into strength, to turn chaos into calm, to turn existence into art. You no longer ask, "Why me?" You ask, "What is this teaching me?" Because everything teaches you, if you're still enough to listen. The people who left, the dreams that died, the days that broke you, all of them whispered the same truth. You cannot control what happens, but you can control who you become because of it. That realization, it changes everything. Suddenly, the noise of the world feels distant. The opinions of others lose their grip. The chase for approval becomes meaningless. You don't need to prove yourself anymore. Not to them, not to anyone. You've been walking through fire long enough to know your own worth. You understand now that peace is not found in achievement. It's found in acceptance. You accept that not everyone will understand you. You wake each morning and whisper, "I will do what I can, with what I have, where I am." And that is enough. Marcus said, "When you arise in the morning, think of what a privilege it is to be alive, to breathe, to think, to enjoy, to love. That's it. That's all life asks of you. To show up, fully, presently, calmly, because every breath could be your last. And when that moment comes, when the light begins to fade, you won't regret the things you lost. You'll regret the moments you weren't awake to live. So open your eyes, not just to see the world, but to feel it. The weight of sunlight on your skin, the rhythm of your heartbeat, the sound of rain against glass. This is life, fleeting, fragile, beautiful, and you are a part of it. For all your flaws, your pain, your chaos, you are here. You have survived storms that would have drowned others. You have carried grief that once felt unbearable, and yet you still rise. There is a quiet greatness in that, not loud, not visible, but deep, ancient, unshakable, because you are learning, slowly, painfully, beautifully, to master yourself, to be still, even as the world shakes, to find peace, even in uncertainty, to love life, even when it hurts. And in that stillness, you finally understand this is what you were searching for all along. Not perfection, not control, but peace. Peace with what was, peace with what is, peace with whatever will come. And from that peace, a new strength is born, unbreakable, unmoved, free. You are no longer waiting for the storm to end. You are learning to walk through it with calm eyes and a steady heart, because the storm was never your enemy. It was your teacher. And now, you are ready to live as the Stoics lived, to meet life as it is, without resistance, without fear, to see every challenge as an opportunity to practice virtue, to let go of what you cannot control, to hold fast to what you can, your mind, your choices, your peace. You are no longer the person you were. You have become something rarer, something sacred, a soul that walks through chaos and still whispers, I am free. The Stoics called it apatheia, a state beyond passion, beyond turmoil, beyond fear. It is not the absence of emotion, but the mastery of it, to feel deeply, yet remain still, to act justly, without being ruled by anger, to love wholly, without clinging. You realize that every moment is a test of your perception. When someone insults you, you can either react or reflect. When life disappoints you, you can curse or learn. When pain arrives, you can run or endure. The choice is always yours. That's what they never told you, that you are free, even in chains, powerful, even in loss, because freedom is not about control over circumstances. It's about control over yourself. It's easy to forget that in a world obsessed with noise, comparison, and illusion. Everyone is chasing something: money, fame, validation, escape. But a Stoic chases nothing. He simply walks, steady, aware, awake. He knows that life is borrowed time, and each day is an opportunity to live with virtue. Virtue, not in the moral sense alone, but in the practical one. To be honest, to be brave, to be patient, to be kind, even when the world isn't, even when it costs you. Because character is not built in ease, it's forged in adversity. The more you resist your challenges, the more they persist. But the moment you embrace them, they begin to transform you. Every hardship carries a mirror. Look closely, and you will see parts of yourself you didn't know existed, the weakness you avoided, the strength you denied, the truth you buried. And from that realization, you rise, not the same, never the same, stronger, quieter, wiser. You stop needing to prove yourself. You stop fighting for validation. You stop begging life to be different. You begin to live simply, intentionally, gratefully. But suffering is optional. When you stop running from pain, you begin to see its shape, its lesson, its quiet offering. Pain shows you where you are still attached, still afraid, still holding on to what must be released. There's a beauty in that realization, a freedom that only arrives when you've lost everything you thought you needed. You learn that loss is not the end of you. It's the clearing, where you begin again. Everything you've lost was never truly yours. It was only borrowed to teach you who you are without it. And who are you? When stripped of all things external, you are the observer, the witness, the consciousness that remains when everything else dissolves. That is where the Stoic stands, unshaken, rooted, silent. The world can break his body, but not his mind. He knows that the universe owes him nothing, that life is not unfair, only indifferent. So he learns to stop demanding and starts accepting. Acceptance, not as surrender, but as understanding. Understanding that life is change, and to resist change is to resist the nature of existence itself. Marcus wrote, Accept whatever comes to you woven in the pattern of your destiny. For what could more aptly fit your needs? There's wisdom there, a reminder that even the pain you despise may be shaping you into someone stronger, wiser, freer. But it's hard, isn't it, to trust the unseen, to believe that this chaos has meaning. You've been through nights so long, you forgot the color of dawn. You've watched dreams crumble in your own trembling hands, and still, you rise. That is what makes you beautiful. Not your victories, but your persistence. You've carried heartbreak, disappointment, betrayal, and yet, you still search for light. That is strength, because anyone can smile when life is kind, but the Stoic smiles when the world is burning, not because he's numb, but because he understands that no fire outside can destroy the calm within. You start to realize your peace is not a reward, it's a practice, a discipline, a way of being. You earn it every moment. You choose silence over anger, patience over panic, gratitude over bitterness. Every time you say, "This is not what I wanted, but I will face it anyway." That is mastery, not of others, but of yourself. And it's slow, painfully slow. There are days you will break, nights you will beg for relief, moments when your heart feels too heavy to carry, and yet you must, because this journey is not about comfort. It's about clarity, to see life as it is, not as you wish it to be, to love what remains, even when it hurts, to walk through fire and still whisper, "I am grateful." That is freedom. You begin to understand that happiness was never the goal. Peace was, and peace comes not from getting what you want, but from wanting less. You wake up one morning, and the silence feels heavier than usual. You look around, nothing has changed, and yet everything feels different. There's a weight in your chest, not from what has happened, but from what hasn't. You stare at the ceiling, and a quiet truth echoes inside you. You are not where you thought you'd be. Not yet, not even close. The world outside keeps moving, people rushing, dreams colliding, but you feel still. It's a strange kind of stillness, not peace, not calm, but the stillness of someone who's been fighting for too long. You wonder when it all began. This war between who you are and who you want to be. You think of all the times you fell, all the times you tried to start again, all the times you whispered to yourself, "I'll do better tomorrow." And tomorrow came, and you were still here, still unsure, still waiting for something to change. But the Stoics, they would tell you, don't wish for the world to be easier. Wish for yourself to be stronger. Marcus Aurelius once said, "You have power over your mind, not outside events." Realize this, and you will find strength. You breathe. You let those words settle. Power over your mind, not over time, not over others, but over the storm within. Because the truth is, no one is coming to save you. Not your friends, not fate, not some divine moment of clarity. The rescue was always yours to begin with. You are the fire and the forge, the wound and the healer, the fall and the rise. But to understand that, you must first face the silence that asks, what are you afraid of losing? What are you still chasing? And who are you when there's nothing left to chase? Most people spend their lives running from pain, from emptiness, from themselves. But a Stoic learns to stand still in the fire, to look pain in the eye, and say, "You will not define me." Epictetus wrote, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." You've been reacting your whole life. Now it's time to respond. There's a difference. Reaction is emotion. Response is awareness. Reaction is chaos. Response is control. Control, not of the world, but of your own soul. Because nothing is promised. Not success, not love, not peace. Everything you hold can be taken away in an instant. And yet, what remains, what truly belongs to you, is your character, your ability to endure, to keep moving when no one watches, to hold your dignity, even when life takes everything else. Seneca said, "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." How many nights have you lived? Tragedies that never happened. How many days have you lost to fears that never came true? The mind is a battlefield, but you've been fighting shadows. You see, pain is real.